Okay, so get this. We're diving into the story of Kara Robinson. Just imagine you're 15 years old watering your friend's flowers, just a normal June morning in Lexington, South Carolina. And bam, you're kidnapped.
Oh, wow.
It's a nightmare scenario, right? But hold on, it gets even crazier because the kidnapper is a serial
Oh
killer.
my gosh.
I
And it
mean,
just adds a whole other layer of intensity to the situation, doesn't it?
it's terrifying, and what blows my mind is how Kara managed to stay calm and observant throughout the whole ordeal. Not only did she escape, but she also gave the police so many details about her captor that they were able to catch him. I mean, how do you even process all that under so much pressure?
It's incredible, right?
Mhm.
Survival instincts are a powerful thing. And in situations like this, some people just have this amazing ability to focus. Like their senses become super sharp and they start noticing every little detail.
And you have to remember, she was held captive in a Rubbermaid container. Can you imagine the fear and the claustrophobia?
Oh, absolutely. It's
Wow.
hard to even fathom. But even in that horrifying environment, Kara was actively gathering information. She wasn't just waiting around hoping for a chance to escape. She was creating one.
She was basically playing detective while being held captive. The source material mentions she noticed things like her captor's military background, the types of pets he had, lizards, fish. I mean, who thinks about that kind of stuff in that situation?
Right. It's those seemingly small details that can end up being the most important clues. It's like something out of a detective novel, except this is real life with incredibly high stakes.
And then there's the escape itself. She managed to unscrew the clasp on her restraints with her teeth.
Whoa, seriously. With her teeth.
Yeah.
That just shows the incredible willpower she had. I mean, what a terrifying situation.
It's a truly remarkable story, and it really makes you think, what would I do in a situation like that? What details would I try to remember?
Absolutely. It's like a chilling thought experiment, but maybe one worth exploring.
It definitely makes you appreciate the power of mental preparedness.
Yeah, we don't want to think about these things happening.
Yeah.
But could taking a few minutes to visualize potential escape routes or just being more aware of our surroundings actually save our lives someday?
That's a really good point. It's not about living in fear, but about being prepared.
Exactly. And Kara's story is the perfect example of that. So how can we actually cultivate that level of awareness and mental resilience in ourselves? I mean, is it something we're born with or can we learn it?
That's what I'm really curious about because we all know that memory can be unreliable, but could we actually train our brains to be more like Kara's? I mean, how much of it is instinct and how much is conscious effort?
That's a fascinating question. And, there's actually a lot of research on this. I think a good place to start is by understanding how our brains work under stress.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Basically, when we're faced with a dangerous or threatening situation, our bodies go into this fight or flight mode. It's a natural response that helps us survive. But sometimes that flood of adrenaline can make it hard to think clearly.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's
Yeah.
like your mind goes blank when you need it the most.
Exactly. So the key is to find ways to manage that stress response and maintain a level of focus even when things feel chaotic. And believe it or not, there are actually techniques we can use to do that.
Like what? Give me an example.
One technique that's really popular is called the memory palace. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but I always thought that was something only memory champions used, not something for everyday life.
That's a common misconception. Actually, anyone can use the memory palace technique. It's a powerful way to organize information and make it easier to remember.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does it work?
So imagine you're walking through a familiar place like your house.
Okay, I can picture that.
Now imagine you're trying to remember a list of items like groceries.
Hmm.
You could mentally place each item in a specific location in your house. For example, you might put milk on the kitchen counter, eggs in the refrigerator, and bread on the dining room table.
Oh, I see. So by associating the items with familiar locations, you're creating a mental map that helps you recall them later.
Exactly. And the more vivid and detailed you make those mental images, the easier it'll be to remember. So if you imagine the milk spilling on the counter or the eggs cracking open, you're more likely to recall those details later.
It sounds kind of fun, actually, like turning your house into a memory game.
It is. And the best part is it actually works. Research has shown that using the memory palace technique can significantly improve recall, even for people with average memories.
So going back to Kara's story, she wasn't exactly planning on being kidnapped and needing to remember every detail. But do you think she was instinctively doing something similar to the memory palace technique?
That's a really interesting thought, and it's definitely possible. By focusing on specific concrete details like the refrigerator magnets or the types of pets, She was creating mental anchors for those memories.
Right. Instead of just random information floating around in her head, it was organized and connected to specific objects and locations.
Exactly. It's like she was subconsciously building a mental map of her surroundings, which helped her retain those crucial details.
It's incredible to think that something as simple as paying attention to detail could have such a profound impact.
It really speaks to the power of observation, not just in extreme situations, but in everyday life.
So if someone's listening to this right now and they're thinking, wow, I wish I had a better memory, what would you recommend they do to start improving their observation skills?
Well, a great starting point would be to actually research the memory palace technique and try practicing it. Start with something simple, like a grocery list or a to-do list, and see if you can create a mental map of those items.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. It sounds like a fun and engaging way to train your brain.
It is. And the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes.
That's a great analogy. And it makes you realize that we all have the potential to improve our memory and observation skills.
Absolutely. It
Yeah,
just takes a little effort and the willingness to try new things.
I love that. And speaking of trying new things, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the escape itself. I mean, unscrewing a clasp with your teeth. That's some next level strength and determination.
It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what was going through her head at that moment.
I can't even imagine the fear and adrenaline, but clearly she had a plan.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't just a random act of desperation. She thought it through. Remember, she hid in the closet until she could safely get away.
That's right. It was a
Yeah.
calculated risk. What if he had woken up? What if she hadn't been able to get out?
Exactly. It was a gamble, but it was a smart one, and it ultimately saved her life.
It's like she was channeling her inner action hero, thinking several steps ahead.
And, it's amazing how much strength and resilience we can find within ourselves when we're faced with danger.
It's like this hidden reserve that we don't even know we have until we need it.
I think that's one of the most powerful takeaways from Kara's story, that we're all capable of so much more than we think. Even in the darkest of circumstances, there's always a glimmer of hope.
And that hope can fuel our actions and help us find a way out.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That even when everything seems lost, there's still a spark inside of us that can ignite our will to survive.
And that's what makes her story so inspiring. It's a testament to the human spirit and its ability to overcome incredible challenges.
It really is. And you know what's even more remarkable is that her story doesn't end with the escape. Her attention to detail during her captivity played a crucial role in catching her captor.
You're right. She didn't just escape, she made sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. And that's what I find so incredible about this case. She was a victim, but she also became a hero.
Absolutely. She took control of the situation and used her experience to help others. It's a powerful reminder that we all have the potential to make a difference, even in the face of adversity.
Her story is a reminder that we shouldn't underestimate the power of observation, and that even small details can make a huge difference.
And that sometimes the most unlikely heroes are the ones who rise to the occasion when no one else can.
I completely agree. And you know what? This conversation has really got me thinking about all the different ways we can cultivate that kind of mental strength and resilience in ourselves.
Me too.
Eh,
It's a fascinating topic, and there's so much more to explore. But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. There's so many more layers to this story and so many valuable lessons we can learn from it. But I think we've given our listeners a good starting point.
I agree. And hopefully it will inspire them to think about their own mental preparedness and to appreciate the power of observation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you never know when those skills might come in handy.
Yeah.
And, it's really interesting to think about how much of Kara's success was due to pure instinct and how much was that conscious effort to fight back.
Right. Like, was she actively thinking, okay, I need to remember this, or was it more of a subconscious thing?
It's tough to say for sure, but I think what we can learn from her experience is that even in those super intense moments, we can shift our focus from just panicking to actually observing and gathering information.
So instead of just reacting to the threat, you're saying we can use our minds to potentially find a way out.
Exactly. And the more we understand how our brains work under pressure, the better equipped we'll be to respond effectively, when it really matters.
That's where I think that observe and outsmart concept comes in. It's not just about being passive. It's about using your senses to your advantage.
Right. It's about becoming aware of your surroundings, noticing the details, remembering what you see.
Like those details Kara remembered. The magnets on the fridge, the name of his doctor. Those weren't just random observations. They were key pieces of evidence.
Exactly. They help put the puzzle together. And that's a big takeaway here. Observation isn't just about noticing. It's about recognizing what's important and really remembering it.
It's almost like she was building a case against him without even realizing it.
In a way, she was. And that's something we can all learn from. We might not be able to predict when we'll be in a dangerous situation, but we can practice that habit of observation, paying attention to our surroundings, and remembering what we see.
So you're saying it's not just about having a good memory. It's about training your brain to be more observant and pick up on those important details.
Exactly. And there are techniques we can use to improve those skills, like we talked about the memory palace. But there are other strategies too, like focusing on things that stand out,
Yeah.
creating mental associations, practicing active recall.
So there's a real science to this, which is fascinating. And it makes me wonder, what are some things we can do every day to sharpen those observation
Oh,
skills?
there are tons of exercises and practices. One simple thing is to just start paying attention to your everyday environment. Like instead of just walking through your house without thinking, take a moment to really notice things. The arrangement of objects, the colors, the textures. Challenge yourself to remember those details later.
So it's like turning your daily life into a training ground for your mind.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more automatic it becomes.
So even something as simple as noticing the pattern on someone's shirt or the way the light hits a building, that could actually be beneficial.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating that mindset of awareness, being present, taking in the details.
But what about the emotional side of all this? I mean, it's one thing to practice observation when you're calm and relaxed. But how do we access that same level of focus when we're under stress?
That's a great point. And that's where mental resilience comes in.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What exactly is mental resilience? And how does it relate to surviving something traumatic?
So mental resilience is basically the ability to bounce back from tough situations, being able to adapt and cope without falling apart. It's that mental emotional strength to navigate through challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
So it's not just about being tough. It's about having the tools to deal with whatever life throws at you.
Exactly. And the good news is that mental resilience can be developed and strengthened. It's not something you're just born with. It's something you can work on.
That's really encouraging to hear. So how do we actually build mental resilience? Are there specific things we can do?
Yeah, there are a lot of things people can try. One important thing is learning to manage stress. This could involve things like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, even physical activity.
So it's like having a toolbox of strategies to use when things get tough.
Exactly. And another key part of mental resilience is developing a positive mindset, focusing on your strength, cultivating gratitude, learning to reframe those negative thoughts.
So it's about choosing to see the good, even when things are difficult.
Right. And it's not about ignoring the challenges. It's about acknowledging them, but also recognizing your ability to grow and adapt.
So finding that balance between acknowledging the reality and staying hopeful.
That's a great way to put it. And that's what's so inspiring about Kara's story. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She went through something unimaginable and came out stronger, more determined, and with a powerful message to share.
And that message is that we all have the potential for resilience, for courage, for using our minds to overcome obstacles.
I couldn't agree more. It's a message that really resonates, reminding us that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can find a way to shine through.
You know, it's kind of wild when you think about it. It's like she flipped the script on those typical crime shows. Instead of the detectives figuring things out afterward, she's right there in the middle of it, gathering those clues, becoming her own investigator.
It's so true. She really did take control of the situation in a way. It's remarkable. She wasn't just a victim. She was actively working towards her own rescue.
And her bravery didn't just save her own life, she stopped a serial killer. I mean, how many other tragedies did she prevent?
Exactly. It really highlights the importance of listening to survivors, believing them. Kara's detailed account, her commitment to remembering everything, it was absolutely crucial in catching him.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important evidence comes from the victims themselves. They're not just witnesses. They hold the key to solving these crimes and stopping future harm.
Right. And Kara's story also brings up this important question. How do we encourage that kind of mental strength, that awareness in ourselves and in others? It's not about living in fear. It's about being prepared.
So what can our listeners take away from all of this? I think it's a call to action. Be more aware of your surroundings. Trust your instincts. And never underestimate the power of your own mind in a crisis.
I couldn't agree more.
Oh.
We've talked about some practical things like the memory palace technique, but it goes beyond that. It's a shift in your mindset,
Yeah.
being present, knowing you have that inner strength you can tap into.
It's about knowing you're not helpless, that you have the power to observe, to think things through and to take action, even when you're scared.
You got it. And knowing that while you can't control everything that happens, you can control how you respond. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be in control of your own life, just like Kara did.
Her story is a powerful reminder that courage and resilience aren't just for superheroes. They're inside all of us.
And by acknowledging that potential, by working on those qualities, we're not just honoring Kara's incredible journey, we're empowering ourselves to face whatever life throws our way.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Kara Robinson's amazing escape, I think the biggest takeaway is this. We all have the potential to be heroes in our own lives. Maybe it won't be escaping from a serial killer, but it will be about facing those fears, tapping into that inner strength, and believing in our ability to overcome obstacles.
Beautifully said. Kara's story is a powerful testament to what humans are capable of. It's a beacon of hope. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, we could do incredible things.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. What can you do today to build up that mental resilience and awareness in yourself? Maybe it's something as simple as trying out that memory palace technique. Or maybe it's something bigger, like really committing to facing your fears head on, whatever it is. Remember that you have the power to choose, and that even small steps can lead to incredible results. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.